Once upon a time, in a quiet little town, there stood a small wooden workshop at the edge of the road. Inside, the sound of a hammer tapping. Arthur had bright hazel eyes, soft brown hair. He watched his father shape wood into chairs, tables, and little pieces of magic for people's homes. His father always smiled and said, "Arthur, remember this. Strong hands build strong lives." He didn't understand why his father worked so hard for such simple things. One evening, his father stood silently in the doorway, eyes full of sadness. "One day you'll understand, my boy." And so Arthur left. He walked through the town, past the hills, until the lights of the city shone before him, bright, noisy, and full of people. He thought, this is where dreams are made. So he decided to start small, just a little burger stall on a quiet street corner. He found some old wood, bits of metal, and a few nails. With patience, he built his tiny stall, shaky, simple, but his own. He smiled proudly as he painted the sign, "Arthur's Burgers." At first, only a few people came. They liked his burgers, but business was slow. Still, Arthur kept working. Every day he cooked, served, and smiled. Every night, he sat alone under the streetlight, counting his few coins, thinking of home, but never going back. He missed his father but didn't want to admit it. Then one night, everything changed. The sky turned dark, heavy clouds rolled in, and a cold wind swept through the street. Rain began to pour harder and harder, until it turned into a storm. Arthur rushed to save his stall, covering it with plastic sheets, holding the wood together with his hands. But the storm was too strong. The roof broke, the boards fell apart, and in just a few moments, everything he built was gone. Arthur fell to his knees in the rain. The water soaked his clothes, his hair, his heart. He held a piece of broken wood in his hand, the same kind his father once shaped, and tears fell from his eyes. He cried until he could cry no more. And there, in the cold, beside the ruins of his dream, he fell asleep. Morning arrived, birds chirped, the sky cleared, and the storm was gone. But something inside Arthur had changed. He sat up slowly, looked at the broken pieces around him, and whispered, "I'll build again, but this time stronger." He remembered his father's words, "Strong hands build strong lives." From that moment, Arthur worked like never before. He collected wood, bricks, cement, anything he could find. He built with care, not hurry. Every nail he hammered reminded him of his father's workshop. Every wall he lifted made him stronger, not just in body, but in heart. Days turned into weeks again, but this time Arthur didn't give up. His hands blistered, his arms ached, but his spirit never broke. He carved a new sign, polished it with pride, and wrote the words, "Arthur's Burgers, made with heart." When the shop was finally ready, it wasn't just a place to sell food. It was a dream, a promise kept. Arthur cooked his first burger again, golden and warm, smelling of hope. The street filled with that delicious smell. People stopped, smiled, and soon, a small crowd gathered. A little boy took a bite and said, "Mister, your burgers taste like love." Arthur laughed softly, his eyes warm. That night, he sat outside his shop under the same sky he once cried beneath. The stars twinkled, the breeze was gentle, and he whispered, "Father, I understand now. You weren't trying to stop my dreams. You were teaching me how to build them." He looked at his hands, rough, tired, but strong, just like his father's once were. And somewhere, in the quiet wind, he felt his father's presence, proud, smiling, and at peace. From that day on, Arthur's Burgers became more than a shop. It became a story of patience, love, and hard work. People came not just for food, but for inspiration. And the moral of Arthur's journey lived on forever. A father's advice may sound strict, but it's made of love. One day we all realize they weren't holding us back.
Thank you very